All right, guys, our next guest is a quality slice of New Zealand City kickboxing goodness. Where he's coming from today, he set on to take on Dustin Poirier this weekend in a key matchup for the division as he looks to crack the top 3 spot. The hangman himself, Dan Hooker. Welcome back to the show. How are you today, my friend?
I'm very well. Just finishing up some morning training, and I've got media day today, so it's all kicking off pretty much.
Very nice. Very nice. And you're in, of course, the legendary City Kickboxing. Actually, this is so cool because last time we had Huge on the show, Eugene Berriman, he was sitting in that exact same spot. You must be sitting in the same chair. So this is a bit of a tradition. And just before we officially started recording, you were showing the guys that were doing wrestling. We saw the champion. We saw Israel Adesanya there as well. A lot of good vibes. But I wanted to kick it off with this, Dan. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. And that is, of course, the event poster for you versus Dustin. Is this the most intense Dan Hooker we've ever seen on event poster? What's going on there?
I don't know. I have no idea what they said to me to get me to do that face. Like, that's genuinely what I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
What
are we.
Maybe I was just pissed off. Maybe they were just like, okay, we're going to take 10,000 more photos. And then I got extra mad and I did that face.
I mean,
that's not even my mad face. I don't even know what that is.
Well, I was going to say, imagine if the wife tells you you're having salad for dinner. That's the photo you're going to be sending her from now on through WhatsApp. Am I
right? I can't even do it again.
I thought it was the banana peel thrower. You saw him again, and that was the face you made.
That was probably it. Like, because that would be like genuine anger, which I kind of just get a cheeky smile going. That's like that's my like genuine mad face. Because when you see me smile, like someone's about to get chinned.
That's even scarier.
Is that going to be like the Vadoom face, do you think? Do you think that face takes on a life of its own and next time you walk out in New Zealand, everyone has face masks with that face on it?
If I could do it at will, but I don't think I'm even capable of doing that face at will. I think that was a once in a lifetime face.
Yeah. It'd be scary to see a bunch of Kiwis and Maoris doing that face in an arena, you know? I feel like when they do it, it means business, you know? But I was going to say, this is obviously a pre-record. It's Friday morning here, leading into Friday Arvo and NZ. People are listening to this on Monday, but why are you still in New Zealand? You would think that you'd be in Vegas acclimating, right? Why are you still there? Is this a usual sort of thing for you to come out this late, or what's the deal?
No, like I usually would be still here, so I usually fly out Sunday or Monday. That's like when we genuinely leave. But the flight, like, because there's a limited number of flights traveling from Auckland to LA or Auckland to Las Vegas. Our choice was either go Saturday or go Tuesday, and I would rather go Tuesday. The less amount of time I have to spend over there, I feel, the better.
Because it's crazy times over there, man. The numbers are just going up, skyrocketing in the US, and it's one of those things where whenever me and Casper talk about it, it's like, yeah, covering events right now is pretty crazy. So what kind of worries do you have when it comes to getting on the plane, flying to Las Vegas, trying to avoid, catching something that's pretty rampant over there in America right now, especially when it comes to flying airports and going in and out, going from a country where you guys only got like 2 cases at the moment, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like things went back to normal like real quick over here once we eliminated it and there was no cases. Like things went back, like we were back full sparring in gyms. Everyone's shaking hands like usual. Everyone's giving each other hugs and kisses. So I'll have to switch it back on and be a lot more careful. And I'm not that concerned about it because I'm young, I'm fit, I'm healthy. Just my main concern will be catching it and bringing it back. But that's taken care of with the isolation when I get back into New Zealand. So I fly out the day after the fight. And when I get back into New Zealand, we go straight into a 14-day quarantine. So, like, regardless whether I catch it or not, like, as long as the New Zealand public is kept safe, then I don't mind too much.
Well, the funny thing about that one is, and I guess it's not that funny, but it's the crazy situation of it is you go in there, you win this fight with Dustin Poirier, which is the biggest fight of your career and a huge fight in the division, and then you come home and you can't really technically see your children, you can't see your wife, you can't see your family for 2 weeks. Have you thought about what that's going to be like? That's going to be pretty nuts. And where are you crashing, by the way? Is there a teammate that's going to let you crash? Or?
Nah. So the government puts you in a hotel. So the government has a few like hotels spread out around Auckland, and so straight away when you're arriving, the government escorts you to a hotel, and then from that hotel you're kept in isolation for 14 days.
Wow.
Okay, well, I like the escort part. That at least makes it sound kind of valet and fancy, even though there's basically
you and Eugene Behrman sharing a mini fridge.
Or you just staying because he's got a corner Alex Volkanovski.
Right.
So he's staying. I don't know if he's staying in the US for a week or he's gonna fly straight to Abu Dhabi to Fight Island and kind of hang out there in a hotel because otherwise he would have had to come back to New Zealand, be in quarantine for a week, and we're not sure if they'll even let you leave the country again. So I think the safe bet for him would be to stay away.
Well, let's talk about this Dustin Poirier fight. I mean, it is a great matchup for the division, but it's one that you've been calling for a long time. You guys were originally even scheduled to fight in May. Obviously, the coronavirus took care of that. But what was your reaction when you finally got the fight and it was actually official?
Well, they were kind of teasing me with this fight the entire time. They were telling me May 16th was going ahead. Even when the world started going crazy and all of these shows started getting canned, the UFC was still telling me May 16th, your main event against Dustin Poirier. So New Zealand was on level 4 lockdown. So level 4 lockdown in New Zealand meant that you can't interact with anyone outside of the people that you live with in your house. So I live with my wife and my 18-month-old daughter. So those were my training partners for the first half of this training camp. And also, so I of course own a gym, but I wasn't even allowed to go to my own gym. I had to just exercise locally. So that was another one of the rules, that you had to stay local to your area. So there's a few running tracks around Auckland, but I still wasn't even allowed to go that far out of my local area to get to them.
Jeez.
But lucky enough, I got a few nice hills around my area, so I was able to stay fit and healthy.
It's interesting. Obviously, it's going to be a massive fight, but you were here at the start of the year. You were talking to us on the show, and we were sort of joking about how Dustin's running out of excuses not to fight you. Now the fight's official. It's actually happening, but do you think he wanted this fight with you, or do you think it was a situation where he sort of ran out of options and kind of had to take this one?
A bit of both. There was no one else above him that's ready to go or willing to fight. So a bit of both. He obviously wants to stay active and he wants to get back in there, and he's obviously hungry to mix it up with someone. And I'm just the best option, top 5 is still, with a loss, doesn't fall that far down. So there's definite risk, but it's not a huge risk. It's not like I'm a no-name guy, which he's gonna drop out of the top 10 or out of the top 5. He'll still be top 5 after I'll whoop him.
It's funny because Chael Sonnen did a great video about you last year, and I know you know about it, and he was talking about how people seem to be offended whenever you call them out. And we got to say, he has a point. People don't really like it when you call them out. Why do you think that is?
I guess it's just the style in which I do. It's not.
But you're not offensive.
It's pretty straight to the point. I'm definitely not offensive. Like I try whenever I say things about people, just to try keep it genuine. I might say something that's a little too close to home or a little too true for some people, and that kind of offends them. Like, it's just my opinion. At the end of the day, if I think you suck and I think you can beat you, I think I can beat you. I'm not shy about saying it, but I'm calling them out because they're ranked ahead of me. You don't see me calling people out because they're easy beats. I want the toughest fights, so I call out the biggest names in the toughest fights. So there's nothing disrespectful about there's nothing disrespectful there, I feel.
I feel like we talk about this every time you have a big fight, and that's been happening for quite some time. But we'd be like, all right, so after you beat this guy, do you think it's going to open up the division and everybody's going to take your call-outs differently, and you'll actually have people chasing you because of your ranking and the guy that you beat? And every time we see you win, no one responds. You're chasing these guys around, and then eventually the UFC makes the fight. But do you believe that with this Poirier fight, this is the one? You beat Poirier, all of a sudden these collabs go differently. Guys are actually chasing you in the division. You don't have to work so hard to get these fights together for yourself.
Well, let's just talk about the facts. I beat Dustin Poirier. There's only 3 fights in my future. That's either fight for the title, fight Tony Ferguson, or fight Conor McGregor. I feel like I have the best claim to the title with a win, especially a stoppage win. I feel like I have the best claim to the title. So I feel like I'm in a position to get called out by either Tony Ferguson or Conor McGregor.
Wow, that'd be fascinating. You know what's funny though, right?
They can come to me. I'm gonna play it cool for once, I reckon.
You're gonna wait. You're gonna
Maybe
wait.
I didn't say I would wait. Mm-hmm. That's just not in my nature. Patience is not one of my virtues. I didn't say I would wait. I said.
Whoa! Things got really serious all of a sudden. He's got a spanner in his head.
Well, I can't hit you with this from here.
It's like a hardcore match.
I'll throw it across the.
What else do you have under there? A table, a chair?
I got scissors.
Oh no. My God! He's bringing everything.
This is Eugene's table. I don't want to.
Oh no!
Oh God! Well, I was gonna say, like, you go in there, you beat Dustin Poirier, it'd be interesting, right? Because Gaethje's the next guy ahead to fight Khabib, and then Dana White's been telling anybody with ears that Conor is the guy after that. So how would you feel about it? Especially because if you beat Poirier, you'd be ranked ahead of Conor. He'd be at 4, you'd be at 3.
Yeah, like that'll be a funny one because it's not as straightforward as that. You know, that's counting on Justin Gaethje or Khabib staying healthy for that camp, and they make it to that camp, which, you know, anything can happen in the sport. And that's also banking on the fact that negotiations with Conor McGregor go well. Well, there's 2 things that I'm not worried about short notice. I'm not worried about a short camp. I take any opportunity I can get, and I'm very easy to negotiate with. So, you know, I put myself as the easiest guy to work with in the top 5 of the division. So if they're looking for someone to slide in, I'm 100% that guy.
You versus Conor McGregor would be such a great fight. I mean, just on paper, it would just be dynamite. People would love to see that fight go down, especially in this part of the world. But I'm just wondering, do you think Conor McGregor himself would be interested in a fight like that? I mean, you're a very, very challenging guy for him to take on in the octagon. Do you think he'd actually be open to mentioning your name and building a fight with you, knowing that there's quite a bit on the line with you taking on a guy like you?
Nah, he would be stupid to come and get that fight. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, not skill for skill. Like, I'm very aware. You know, he it's in his best interest to fight another pay-per-view draw. So fight another name guy that draws pay-per-views or draws the general public's attention to him. I'm a fighter from a very small country in New Zealand. Our market's very small, whereas he's, you know, either those from Ireland. There's like a huge Irish base in the US, so he has a large audience there and a large appeal in the US. So it would just come down to numbers, and when it comes down to numbers, I don't feel like I'm the best fight for him.
You mentioned before just about how you're an easygoing guy to work with. Has that served you sort of well in your career up until this point? Everybody's sharing these Joe Silva stories about just, you know, their experiences with Joe. That it's a trending hashtag. I imagine if you're that easy to work with, you and Joe Silva would be best buddies. He makes the call, you know. Just there you go with the spanner again.
No, so I got into the UFC when Joe Silva was leaving, and it was actually Joe Silva's email who I got in contact with the UFC. So I got Joe Silva's email. I sent him just an email saying, "Hey, you guys are coming to Auckland, New Zealand. You're putting on a UFC event. Like, I'm the best fighter in New Zealand. What do I need to do to get on the card?" And he said, "I'm going to pass you off to Sean Shelby." So he passed me off to Sean Shelby. Sean Shelby said, "Can you make 45?" I said, "Yes." And the rest is history. I've been in the UFC ever since. So I never had I can't speak from experience. I didn't have a long interaction with him. I've mainly dealt with Sean Shelby. And yeah, we've never really had any conflict of interest. If I felt like I deserved more money, I would simply ask for it. You know, if I felt like I'd earned something, yeah, I was never shy about asking for it, and he would always be reasonable. You know, I'm a reasonable man. He's a reasonable man, and I'm happy. I just signed a new deal, so I'm very happy with my future with the UFC.
And the spanner helps too. Give me more money.
Give me it.
I like it because he's got the spanner ready, but he never throws it in the works. How about that, bro? Hey, let's talk about this fight. Let's talk about this fight with Dustin Poirier, man. It's going to be a blockbuster, a fight that everybody's really looking forward to, and it's going to be so fun to see you in this one. We've always spoken about, you know, the pressures of being in a main event, and you did such a good job with Paul Felder in New Zealand. But what's it feel like to have the magnitude of this fight happening in Las Vegas and kind of being the big focal point of this fight? I mean, this fight is so big that a lot of people are already predicting it and previewing it, and we're not even in fight week yet. It's still Friday here when we're recording this. Is there any added pressure for you? Or if there is, how are you dealing with it going into this one?
No, I'm not really feeling much pressure for this fight, just because I've wrapped my head around it for so long. Like, I thought this fight was going to happen, you know, since May 16th and coming from so far away. So I've been thinking and processing this fight for a very long time, and I'm confident with the fight. I'm confident with my preparation, and I'm confident with how our two styles match up. Comparing UFC Auckland to this event's going to kind of be apples and oranges. That's 10,000 people, sold out arena in your hometown, and then you compare that with just a handful of UFC stuff. So I don't think the situation can really even be compared. So I'm just going to take it as it comes when it gets to fight week. You know, even I've seen on videos, like, it's even funny, like, you're doing a media scrum in a room and everyone's spread out 20 meters away. They're all keeping their distance from each other. So it's going to be weird. It's not like I'm going to be walking around the streets of Las Vegas and bumping into fans and shaking hands and taking pictures. I don't believe there's open workouts or anything like that. So I'm struggling to see where the pressure comes from externally in this fight.
Do you think there's yeah, I guess that'd be interesting. Do you think there's any other external? I wonder this, right? After Auckland, obviously you and Paul Felder, you had a war, you went back and forth. It was a very close fight, and anytime there's a close fight, people debate, you know, who really won it, who should have got their hand raised. Do you ever feel like you got the credit that you deserved after that Paul Felder fight? And in a way, do you see this Poirier fight as kind of like an opportunity to kind of, I don't know, I guess remind people and sort of get rid of any debates that came from Auckland?
Nah, I don't really care. Like, like winning's winning. I get this spot. Like, I get the fight. I get moved up the rankings, and I get to fight the top five opponent, the higher ranked opponent. Like, people can debate it all they want, but it is what it is. It's a fact. I won. I get to move forward. If it would have been the other way around, I would have taken it on the chin, and that's just the game. They can just stop being crybabies.
Well, I was going to say, you did say recently to MMA Fighting that you don't believe Dustin has the chin that Felder has. Take us sort of into that. What fights of his did you compare and sort of base that on? And how do you see that being a factor in this fight? Do you believe this is going to be a lot quicker than what people think it might be?
I don't want to say, maybe I made a mistake in saying chin. I want to say poker face. I feel like Paul Felder, he's the better actor. He had a phenomenal poker face because he was hurt. You know, he went to the hospital. He's fractured orbital and had you know, a number of injuries. So, you know, he was definitely hurt, but he didn't show it once in that fight. He didn't show for a second that he was hurt or he was wobbled. Whereas Poirier, on the other hand, you can go back and you can see him when he does get hit. He does show it, you know. So the chin, anyone's chin can be touched and they can go to sleep. I know that full well. So I'm not talking so much about getting just flatline, knocked out and hurt, but there's a lot of subtle things that I can see when I go back. Like he'll get hit and he will wobble, or he'll look rocked, or he'll pause for a second. And I feel like I'm one of the better guys in the world at seeing that in people and capitalizing on that.
As a former title challenger, you know, in Dustin, where do you think he's most sort of dangerous? Where do the biggest tests lie for you?
I would feel it's in his experience. Like, he has been in that main event slot 5 previous times. I believe he's fought in main events. And from me being in a main event and going the full 5 rounds, I learned a lot from that fight. So I can only imagine what he's learned from going through that and experiencing that a number of times, 5 times. That's a lot of main event experience. So it would come down to that experience and him just being comfortable in that situation.
It's interesting that you bring that up because, yeah, he has had a lot of experience, but then we've seen a couple of situations where, for example, him versus Conor McGregor or him versus Khabib, we saw a Dustin that was almost defeated going in there and mentally kind of wasn't quite there, and the moment seemed like it was quite a lot for him. I mean, what do you take away from seeing that Dustin and then seeing the Dustin that's been able to go into the octagon and put on those impressive performances against guys like Max Holloway? Is there 2 Dustins in your mind? Or is it just the fact that maybe those were massive names and the situations were a little bit different for him in those fights?
To be honest, like, in all honesty, I watched the Khabib fight from memory. Like, I saw it at the time, but I haven't gone back and watched that fight because I really feel like there's nothing I can gain from watching that fight or studying that fight. I don't think, me or Khabib's skill sets could be further from each other. From most people in the division, it's not really like I'm going to press him against the cage and take him down and control him like Khabib did. So there's not much I can gain from that. So I haven't even seen that side. I've just seen the very durable fighter, the guy that went in there against Gaethje, the guy that went out there against Holloway and has an incredible pace and can put it on someone for 5 rounds. So that's a Dustin that I'm preparing for. I'm not preparing for someone that's going to go in there and quit.
You mentioned Gaethje, and we did say people are giving previews of this fight already. One Justin Gaethje chimed in on Twitter, and he said that his belief is that Dustin Poirier would quote unquote murk you. What did you think when you saw that pop up?
Yeah, like if someone knocks you out, like you obviously want to see them do well and see them succeed because then it makes you look better. Like if I go in there and I knock Dustin Poirier out, then it makes kind of makes Gaethje look like a bum. So I guess he doesn't want that, and so he wants. I think it's a 50-50 fight, me and Poirier. I think there's equal chance that he knocks me out or I knock him out, and I'm prepared for that kind of fight. So of course Gaethje's gonna hedge his bets against the guy that flatlined him.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you see it as a 50-50 fight. I mean, do you see Dustin as one of your biggest challenges in your UFC career? Is he a guy that stands up? Because I don't think we've heard you sort of preview a fight like that before.
I try to approach it as level-headed as possible. Like anytime I've gone into a fight, I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna whitewash this guy. Like there's an easy beat like that. And then I always get my ass kicked every single time. So the way I best approach fights is to take the opponent their skill very seriously. So I definitely know that he's a strong boxer, very strong wrestler, good ground game, very well-rounded, main event experience. So I'm very respectful of his skill and his ability. But I just think I'm a little sharper than he is in some areas.
Just sort of looking, future-wise, I wanted to get your thoughts, if Gaethje is the next guy to fight Khabib. I'm wondering if you even saw his fight against Tony Ferguson, and just curious how you think he sort of, stands up to Khabib as sort of the latest challenge. Because obviously you are gunning for that title. Do you think it would be Khabib that you'd be fighting, or do you think it might even be Gaethje as he possibly dethrones Khabib?
Yeah, I feel like that's an even contest as well. I think that's a 50-50 contest. I feel like Gaethje has the skill set to beat him, like a good pace, good pressure, knockout ability, and very strong defensive wrestler. So if you're going to design a fighter to give Khabib trouble, I would pick the skills that are there in Justin Gaethje to get the job done against Khabib. But then again, if you're picking skills to pick apart Justin Gaethje, I think I'm the guy to do that. So it's just funny how all of these styles match up.
You mentioned that next it would be, a title shot, maybe a fight with Tony, maybe a fight with Conor. And, Tony Ferguson has been a guy that's, been open to taking on all sorts of challenges and stuff. If you do come out of this fight unscathed, Would you be looking at possibly doing a quick turnaround against a guy like Tony Ferguson to try and get yourself in the best position possible when this title shot goes down between Gaethje and Khabib?
If he's fit, if he's healthy, and if he wants it, if he calls for it, that's not a fight. You know, beating Dustin puts me next in line. And I feel like if Tony wants to fight me, then he can ask the UFC, or he can call me out for once. You know, I've been calling these guys out for years. I've been spending my entire career calling guys out, and I feel like with this fight, it puts me in a position where I'm not the guy that's running around chasing all of these people. I feel like they can come to me. So if he wants it, he can definitely ask the UFC, and I'll be happy to get the fight done. But that's not a fight that I feel like I need to call for.
Would you? Oh, go, Dennis.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Dan, out of all those guys, Tony, Khabib, Justin, or even Conor, who do you think presents the toughest challenge to you? Who's the guy that you'd like to test yourself against more? And taking the title out of the equation.
So all of those guys, is Khabib in there as well?
Yeah, all those guys. Who's the guy that ideally would be the next fight after Dustin, if things...
Khabib, of course, because he's undefeated, just because, you know, that's like a storybook ending to be the guy to blemish a perfect record of, you know, one of the pound for pound best fighters in the world. That's the biggest challenge. So of course that's the one that excites me the most.
That would be a very exciting fight. Would you wait? I don't really get the sense that you're the kind of guy who would wait, because if you're number 3, you know, there's Tony and Conor ahead of you, that's it. Gaethje gets the shot. Would you sort of wait for your title shot, or would you just kind of be like, oh, you know what, I'll just take whoever's next, even if you got to take another fight?
Nah, I suck at waiting.
Yeah.
I suck at waiting. Like, the smart thing to do would be to wait. But I'm not that smart.
Well, I don't think that's true, because you did say on Instagram last week that fighters aren't businessmen, but they are a businessman. And I mean, that's pretty like, deep right there. So there's some wisdom coming from
fighters. That's like all my fighters that I coach at the gym. That's do as I say, not as I do. Because I do very stupid shit. I take short notice fights. I fight at weights I shouldn't be fighting at. I am not the smartest for myself. But as a coach and as a manager, that's a whole different story. Do as I say, not as I do.
I thought, okay, so that was for your teammates and your understudies. I thought it was because of all these fighters negotiating with the UFC. I thought you were saying something about that, about fighters not being businessmen or something like that.
All intertwined. You know, there's a few fighters that I take care of on my gym, and a few fighters that I have a lot of interaction with. So it's the same thing. You teach them how to fend for themselves and get the best deal possible for them. Yeah, a lot of these guys are out there. How do you actually change it? Do you go on social media and complain about things? Is that actually going to change the system we are in? Or do you educate younger fighters how to negotiate better deals for themselves and give them advice to get the best deal possible for themselves? I feel like if you're actually going to change the system and improve the system, it's from educating the next generation as to the mistakes that the previous generation made. That's how you actually change it. Just getting on social media and complaining, I don't feel like that's going to make any real form of change.
Absolutely. And also maybe an education about the fact that fighting is a lot of times not a full career. I think a lot of people expect to go into the UFC and make the money that you'd make, you know, being a superstar, and it takes some time, and they have the wrong kind of expectations. Let me just quickly ask you this, Dan, before we let you go. Doesn't hurt the fact that you had beaten a man by the name of Gilbert Burns, who's going to be fighting for the welterweight title very shortly against Kamaru Usman. I mean, what do you make of him going up divisions and now making his way to this title shot against Kamaru? And then if he does become champion and eventually you do win the title in your weight class, I suppose that would be an interesting one for you as well. I mean, you have a win over them.
That's a big what if there. I win. I wish Gilbert Burns all the best with his career. I know, me and him were very respectful going into that. Me and Gilbert Burns were very respectful going into that fight. And even after I got the win and we were out back in the in the room after getting something to eat. You know, he came up to me, wished me all the best for my career. I wished him all the best for his career. So I wish Gilbert nothing but success for the rest of his career.
Well, that's awesome. It's good to see. As we let you go, Dan, it's a big fight for you, arguably the biggest in your career. What's the statement that you're looking to make against Dustin next weekend, or actually this weekend, because people are listening on Monday? What is the big statement that you want to make against Dustin as you solidify yourself as a title contender, fight for that number 3 spot?
Yeah, well, just to prove everyone wrong, prove the doubters wrong, prove that I belong with the best in the division, and I feel like putting Dustin away with a knockout really solidifies my claim of the title.
Well, there you guys go. He is the pride of Australasia, and soon he's going to be the pride of Australia because we like to claim all the Kiwis. He'll be like our Russell Crowe.
The successful ones.
Yeah, there you go. Check him out on Twitter and Instagram at Dan Hangman, and of course check him out against Dustin Poirier. That happens this weekend because you guys are checking this out on a Monday. Dan, thank you so much for joining us, man. Can't wait to see what happens out there, and keep that, 6 feet away from everybody. I know you're a nice and gracious man, but no selfies during fight.
Yeah. It was like coming. I will try my best.
And don't take that wrench with you into the airport. I don't know.
Here's your warning.
See you, Dan. Have a great flight. Bye,
yeah,
mate.
guys. Thank you very much.